welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going deep on this question that seems to keep popping up. Why is Harry Potter still so relevant? It's been decades since the books came out.
It really is fascinating. Harry Potter, it goes way beyond just the books, right? It's like it shaped a whole generation, changed our culture, and people are still arguing about it.
Yeah, totally. And I was actually reading this Vox article. They were saying pretty much the same thing. They said Harry Potter is like a cultural touchstone.
Yeah, like a shared language or something, right, for a whole generation.
Exactly.
And we have a ton of stuff here, articles, Reddit threads, even parts of the books themselves, to help us try to figure out, like, what makes this whole thing tick.
Okay, so where do we even start with something this big?
Well, I think it helps to kind of picture, like, the time when Harry Potter was first being written. Like, imagine J.K. Rowling back in the 90s writing the first book, before social media even existed.
Right. No Twitter, no Instagram, no way to connect with people instantly across the world. It's wild to think about how different things were.
Totally. And yet, even though it was, like, born in this pre-internet world, Harry Potter kind of blew up at the same time the internet did.
So as more people went online, the fandom just exploded. I can see how that would build this huge, like, connected community of fans.
Exactly. All of a sudden, you have fans from all over the world who could talk to each other, sharing their love for the series, analyzing every little detail. And that really kept the story alive, even as new people were discovering it.
So it's like the story kept growing outside the books. People were writing fan fiction, making fan art, come up with all these theories.
Exactly. And we see this even now, decades later. This level of fan engagement is still going strong. But I think to really get it, to understand why it's still so appealing, we have to go deeper than the fandom. We need to look at the stories themselves.
Okay, so what is it about the Harry Potter books that people connect with so strongly?
Well, one thing is that they deal with these really universal themes, stuff we all deal with, no matter how old we are or where we come from. Good versus evil, love, friendship, courage, facing hard times. These are ideas that just speak to everyone. They're part of being human.
True. And I think it's how Rowling puts these themes into her stories that makes them so interesting. She doesn't avoid tough topics.
Exactly. Take prejudice, for example. It's a theme that runs through the whole series, embodied in Voldemort and his followers with that whole pure blood mania thing.
You see it in how they treat Muggleborns, house elves, even other magical creatures. If they don't fit into their narrow view of the world, it's like a reflection of real-world prejudice.
And it's handled with nuance. We see how insidious prejudice is, how it can poison people's minds and tear communities apart.
One thing that always stuck with me was how Harry, even though he was raised in this world where these prejudices were so normal, he never wavered in accepting others.
That's such a good point. His belief in equality, it's unwavering. It's a huge contrast to someone like Draco Malfoy, who just embodies those ingrained biases.
Right. And I think that's part of what makes Harry such a great character. He's brave, he's selfless, he always stands up for what he believes in, even when it's hard.
Absolutely. And it's not just Harry. All the characters, even the ones who aren't perfect, they're relatable in some way.
Yeah, they mess up, they lose people, they have insecurities. It's that human stuff, even in a world of magic, that makes them so interesting.
Those Reddit threads we have, they're full of people discussing the characters, analyzing their motivations, debating their choices. I even saw someone write an essay about their favorite character pairings.
It's like they've become real people for so many readers. And that level of emotional investment really says something about how well Rowling developed her characters.
Totally. But I think beyond the characters and the themes, the series also owes its success to, the complexity of the story.
Oh, absolutely. The way Rowling shows us the wizarding world bit by bit, keeping us guessing with those plot twists and reveals, it's just really well done storytelling.
Exactly. And the whole series, 7 books, it allows this really intricate plot to, like, unfold gradually. We see the characters change and grow up, the stakes get higher, the mysteries get deeper.
One example I always think of is Neville Longbottom. He starts out as this shy, clumsy kid, but by the end, he's this brave leader who's like essential to defeating Voldemort.
It's character development at its best. And that's another reason Harry Potter has stayed relevant. It's not just a simple good versus evil story. It's about growth, resilience, the power of choice.
Speaking of choice, one thing that hit me when I reread the books was how important that theme is, like it's woven through the whole story.
Oh, totally. From the moment Harry gets sorted into Gryffindor to when he decides to face Voldemort, the series is all about the power of choice, like what we do as individuals.
Not just about fate or prophecy. Harry and everyone else, they're always making choices that shape their lives and how the story ends.
And those choices often have tough consequences. But that's what makes it relatable, right? We all have to make choices in our lives, and we have to deal with what comes after.
It's like Rowling is saying that even in a world of magic, our choices matter. They define us.
And even when we screw up, we can learn from it and make better choices next time. That's a powerful message, especially for young people who are just starting to deal with how complicated life can be.
Okay, so we've talked about the themes, the characters, the story. There's a lot going on in these books.
For sure. And while the books have had a huge positive impact on tons of readers, we also have to talk about J.K. Rowling and how things are complicated there.
Right. Her comments, the stuff she said later on, has caused a lot of debate among fans, and you can see that in some of these Reddit threads.
You have fans who are really hurt, who feel betrayed by what she's said, and others who are trying to separate the art from the artist. It's a tough conversation, and there are a lot of different feelings about it.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important that we acknowledge how much her words have hurt people.
Definitely. We want to make sure this is a place where we can talk about these complicated issues openly and with understanding, because we know it's a sensitive topic for a lot of people.
Reading those Reddit threads, one thing that stood out to me was how people were really wrestling with their own feelings about the series because of what Rowling has said.
It just shows how powerful Harry Potter is, that it can make people feel such strong emotions and start such important conversations.
Okay, so I think we've covered a lot here. We've talked about the cultural impact, the universal themes, and even some of the controversy around the author.
We have, and I know we could spend hours unpacking each of these, but I think it's helpful to step back and see how it all fits together.
Right, and we have those book excerpts. We haven't even touched those yet. I'm really interested to see how they reflect everything we've been talking about.
Me too. Maybe by looking closely at those excerpts, we can get an even better understanding of why Harry Potter still resonates with so many people, even all these years later.
Okay, let's do it. We'll dive into those excerpts in part two.
So, welcome back to our deep dive into Harry Potter. Before the break, we were talking about how you could get an even deeper understanding of why the series is still so relevant by, actually looking at the text itself.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get into these excerpts. We have passages from Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone all the way to Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows.
It's amazing to see how much the series changed over those 7 books, like the plot gets so much more complex and the characters really grow up.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. We have this excerpt from the first chapter of Sorcerer's Stone. It's the scene where Harry meets Hagrid for the first time and finds out he's a wizard.
Oh, this is such a classic scene. It's like Harry's whole world gets flipped upside down. Suddenly, he's not just some unwanted orphan. He's a wizard who's destined for great things.
I love how Rowling captures Harry's, shock and amazement when he first enters the magical world. Remember that line? "I'm a what?" gasped Harry. "A wizard! And a thumping good one, I'd wager, once you've trained up a bit."
It's perfect. It really captures that sense of wonder, like you're a kid discovering something totally new. And I think it's something we can all relate to, no matter how old we are. That feeling of being transported to a world that's beyond our imagination.
And as the series goes on, the stakes get higher, the challenges get harder, and the characters, especially Harry, have to face some really difficult truths about themselves and the world around them.
Exactly. We have an excerpt here from Order of the Phoenix where Harry sees Sirius Black die. It's a really important moment in the series where Harry experiences real loss and has to deal with all the pain and grief that comes with it.
This scene is just heartbreaking. It's a turning point where the whole tone of the series shifts. It goes from that childhood wonder to something darker, more mature. It starts exploring things like loss, sacrifice, the cost of war.
Yeah, and Rowling doesn't hold back from showing us how these events affect Harry emotionally. We see him struggling with anger, guilt, even despair.
It's raw and honest. It shows how even in a magical world, people experience real human emotions and challenges.
Exactly, and that willingness to explore difficult themes is what sets Harry Potter apart from a lot of other fantasy books. It's not just about escaping reality, it's about facing real-world problems, understanding complex emotions, and finding hope and resilience even when things are really tough.
These excerpts really show how Harry's character changes over time.
Hmm.
In the early books, he's this wide-eyed kid who's just learning about his powers.
Yeah.
But as the series goes on, He becomes more mature, more responsible, more willing to sacrifice himself for the greater good.
It's incredible how much he grows. He goes from being kind of impulsive and reactive to a real leader who inspires the people around him.
It's like we grow up alongside him. We go through those same experiences of loss and love, and ultimately that sense of hope that things will get better no matter how dark they seem.
And speaking of light and darkness, we can't forget about the villains. Voldemort is one of the most iconic, terrifying villains ever, and he's this looming presence over the whole series.
He's not just some simple bad guy. He's complex, he's manipulative, and he has this really twisted ideology that makes him even scarier.
And his connection with Harry is so important to the themes of the series. It's this battle between good and evil, but it's also about the choices we make and the power of love to overcome hate.
Do you remember that scene in Deathly Hallows where Harry chooses to sacrifice himself to save his friends and ultimately the whole wizarding world? It's so powerful.
Absolutely. And it gets to the heart of what makes Harry Potter so timeless. It's a story about love, courage, and good overcoming evil. Those are themes that speak to everyone, no matter where they're from or how old they are. They start with us long after we finish reading.
In the excerpts we've been talking about today, they really highlight how good Rowling's writing is. These are more than just entertaining stories. They're like looking into what it means to be human. They explore these universal themes we can all connect with.
Exactly. And while there are definitely some complicated things to think about regarding the author's personal opinions, the magic of Harry Potter really comes from the stories themselves. The characters, the themes, that sense of wonder that continues to captivate people all over the world.
As we were talking about these excerpts, I was thinking about the impact Harry Potter has had on a whole generation of readers. It's inspired so much creativity. It's made people love reading. It's even changed how we talk and interact with each other.
It's pretty remarkable. Just think about how popular fan conventions are, or the real-life Quidditch leagues. People even use spells and sayings from the books in everyday conversations.
It's like this fictional world has become part of our reality. It's created communities and experiences that wouldn't exist without it.
It just shows how powerful storytelling can be. It connects us, it inspires us. It can even change how we see the world.
And I think that's why Harry Potter is so unique. It's more than just a series of books. It's this phenomenon that has touched so many lives and continues to have a lasting impact on our culture.
So, as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, it's clear that Harry Potter's influence goes way beyond the books themselves. It started important conversations, shaped a generation, and continues to resonate with millions of readers.
We've explored the universal themes, the complex characters, the lasting appeal of this magical world. But now I'm wondering, what does it all mean for you, the listener? What makes Harry Potter still meaningful to you after all this time?
That's something to think about as we head into the final part of our deep dive. Join us as we explore the lasting magic of Harry Potter and what it means for all of us.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've spent this deep dive exploring the rise of Harry Potter, its complex themes, and even talked about the nuances of J.K. Rowling's legacy.
Yeah, now that we're, coming to the end of our deep dive, I think it's a good time to step back and think about what this whole, enduring magic of Harry Potter really means. For us, the readers, decades after Harry first, went to platform 934.
It's crazy to think how many people this story has touched. I mean, we've talked about how it started all these conversations, inspired creativity, even created a sense of community for fans all over the world.
It really shows you how powerful stories are, They can connect us, take us to different worlds, even make us feel less alone.
And I think that's especially important now. The world feels so divided sometimes, so uncertain. And Harry Potter, it gives you this sense of hope, this reminder that even when things are really dark, there's always light at the end.
It's a story about love, courage, good triumphing over evil. Those are themes that just resonate with everybody, no matter how old you are or where you come from. And they stick with you long after you finish the books.
I think that's a big part of why people keep coming back to Harry Potter year after year.
Mm.
It's not just nostalgia. It's a story that speaks to something deep inside us, something that reminds us that we can be brave and kind and resilient, even when things are hard.
One thing that really stuck out to me when we were looking at those excerpts was how much the series is about choice. Even with all the magic and destiny stuff, Harry and all the characters, they're constantly making choices that change their lives and the whole story.
Yeah, it's like Rowling is saying that no matter what your situation is, you always have the power to choose who you want to be.
Exactly. And even when you mess up, you can learn from it and do better next time. It's a powerful message, especially for young people trying to figure out their place in the world.
You know, when we were getting ready for this deep dive, I was thinking about my own relationship with Harry Potter. I remember reading the first book when I was a kid, and it was like discovering this whole new world just for me.
Me too. Like I was joining this secret club where magic was real and anything could happen.
And even now, I still find myself going back to those books and finding new things, new layers of meaning I didn't see before.
That's the amazing thing about great stories, right? They change as you change, and they keep showing you new things as you grow.
And I think that's another reason Harry Potter is still so relevant. It's a story that grows with you. It speaks to you differently at different points in your life, offering new insights and perspectives.
You know, we've talked a lot about the good things about Harry Potter, but I think it's also important to acknowledge that not everyone's experience with it has been completely positive.
True. We've talked about the things J.K. Rowling has said and how her words have hurt and alienated people.
And it's important to acknowledge that hurt and make space for people who feel conflicted about how they feel about the series.
I think it's also important to remember that art can, take on a life of its own, separate from the person who created it. The magic of Harry Potter, the stories, the characters, the themes, all of that exists apart from J.K. Rowling's personal views.
That's a really good point. And
Yeah.
ultimately, it's up to each person to decide how they want to connect with the series.
We hope this deep dive has given you a better understanding of Harry Potter, its impact, and the conversations it's still starting.
So as we wrap up, I'm curious what stood out to you the most. Was it the power of the storytelling, the relatable characters, the timeless themes, or maybe something completely different?
Whatever it was, we encourage you to hold on to that magic. Let it inspire you, challenge you, and remind you of how stories connect us all. All right. Welcome in, everyone, to another deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
And today we are heading into the magical world of Harry Potter.
Ooh, sounds fun.
It is going to be fun.
Yeah.
But we're not just revisiting the story we all know and love.
Right.
We are going deeper into fan theories and all those headcanons
Yeah.
to understand what keeps this fandom, the Potter fandom, so vibrant
Mm-hmm.
years after the books, wrapped up.
It's amazing, right? Like it's still so active.
It really is.
It's really cool to see how fans have just taken the story and like run with it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they've created theories, they're debating all these different interpretations,
Right.
and they've even built real-world communities all around like these shared ideas.
Yeah. I mean, we've got articles here. We'll even peek into the books themselves a little bit later
Oh, awesome.
to figure out what makes this fandom tick.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more than just figuring out who ends up with who.
Right.
Although we will be getting into the Scorbuses phenomenon
Yeah,
a
definitely.
little bit later.
Scorbuses is like, it's a perfect example of that creative energy within this fandom.
Yeah.
But first, let's maybe take a look at something that I think really fuels the fire.
Okay.
And that is, J.K. Rowling herself
Yeah.
and her engagement with all of these fan theories.
So, okay, let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah.
This stylist article we have here
Mm-hmm.
highlights how Rowling has actually, straight up confirmed certain fan theories
Oh, wow.
over the years.
That's cool.
And it's like she's giving, almost like a nod to the fans
Yeah.
that are digging deep into the world that she created.
I see. Like she's acknowledging their theories
Exactly.
and rewarding them almost.
Right, exactly.
With that confirmation.
Exactly. And it's not just a casual nod either.
Right.
These confirmations, a lot of times they reveal these deeper layers of meaning
Oh, wow.
and foreshadowing
Yeah.
that were always there
Mm-hmm.
in the text all along.
Yeah.
It's almost like she planned it that way
Oh, that's really interesting.
from the start.
Yeah.
It's like that moment in Sorcerer's Stone, right? When Ollivander's giving Harry his wand
Mm-hmm.
and he tells him, oh, this wand shares a core with Voldemort's wand.
Yeah, I remember that.
Remember how cryptic that felt at the time?
Yeah, I was like, what does that even mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And fans spent years speculating about that connection.
Oh, I bet.
And Rowling eventually confirmed that it was intentional
Oh, wow.
and that she had this deeper magical bond between them planned out.
See, that's so cool because It's almost like that one little line sparked this whole web of theories and discussions.
Right, exactly. It just shows how a single detail can just
Yeah.
capture the imagination of this entire massive fandom.
That's so true.
But but here's the thing, right? What's interesting is that even when theories are debunked,
Uh-huh.
it doesn't like dampen the enthusiasm at all.
Really?
Yeah, in fact,
I would think people would be kind of bummed.
this Screen Rant piece we have actually argues that it sparks even more debate
Really?
and analysis
Wow, that's interesting.
because it almost pushes fans to re-examine the text even more
Yeah,
to try to find new evidence to support their interpretation.
right. To kind of like bolster their own ideas.
Right, exactly.
Right. I get that.
It's like this giant literary puzzle,
Mhm.
that everyone is trying to solve together,
Yeah,
even if there isn't always a definitive answer.
that's cool.
You know what I mean? Think about the prophecy
Oh,
from
sure.
Order of the Phoenix
Yeah.
about Harry and Neville.
Mm-hmm.
Dumbledore explains, how it could have applied to either boy.
Yeah.
And fans have been debating
Oh, for sure.
about the true chosen one ever since.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and it's not all just happening online.
Oh, okay.
This is interesting. We have the Harry Potter Alliance,
Okay.
which is this fan-driven organization
Mhm.
that takes like inspiration from the books and applies it to real-world
Wow.
social justice issues.
That's really cool.
So it's like Dumbledore's army,
Yeah.
stepping out of the pages and into the real world.
I love that.
Right. And proving that these fictional stories can actually inspire
Mm-hmm.
tangible action.
Yeah.
It's like those themes of fighting for what's right,
Right.
standing up to injustice.
Yeah.
They resonated so deeply with fans
Mm-hmm.
that they felt compelled to make a difference
Yeah.
in their own world.
That's really cool.
Right. And this, all of this brings us to another fascinating aspect of this fandom,
Okay, what's that?
the creativity.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Its creativity it's through the roof with this fandom.
It's insane. So let's dive into that.
Eric, let's do it.
So we have this Wikipedia entry on Scorbuses,
Darbus.
which for anyone who's unfamiliar,
Yeah.
it's this fan-created relationship
Okay.
between Scorpius Malfoy
Oh, okay.
and Albus Potter,
Oh, wow. Interesting.
shipping at its finest.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
But it shows how fans are so eager to explore these new narratives and relationships,
Yeah.
even if they go beyond what's explicitly stated in the books.
Right, like they want more.
Yes, they want more.
They're not satisfied with just what's there.
Exactly. They want to create their own stories.
Right.
Scorbuses in particular, lets fans imagine this different future
Mm-hmm.
for the next generation of wizards,
Yeah.
one that's built on understanding
Mm-hmm.
and acceptance
Yeah.
rather than the prejudices of like their parents.
Well, it makes sense.
Right. And this creative energy
Yeah.
isn't limited to just romantic pairings either.
Oh, okay.
Fans are reimagining backstories.
Okay.
They're reimagining timelines,
Oh.
even the entire magical system itself.
Oh, wow. That's intense.
We are building their own branches
Yeah.
of the Harry Potter universe.
Oh,
They're,
cool.
like expanding it in ways
Mhm.
that Rowling may have never imagined.
Yeah, it really shows the power of a story
Right.
when it resonates that deeply with its audience. It's like it sparks this need in them
Yeah.
to be creative and imagine and almost like participate
Yeah.
in the narrative.
They're not just reading the story, they're like living it.
Right, exactly.
They're breathing it
Yeah.
and adding their own unique perspective to it.
It's really incredible to see.
It really is. And this whole fan-driven creativity, it
Mm.
goes hand in hand
Mm-hmm.
with these series' lasting cultural impact.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Think about all the discussions, right?
Mm-hmm.
About good versus evil, prejudice, finding your place in the world.
It's so relevant.
It's still relevant today.
Absolutely.
I mean, those themes go way beyond the pages of those books.
Right, they're universal.
They spark these conversations
Yeah.
about real-world issues,
Mm-hmm.
personal struggles,
Yeah,
societal problems.
for sure.
It's like the story
Yeah.
provides a framework for understanding our own experiences.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like a shared language almost. It's like a common ground where people can connect over these like universal human experiences.
Exactly.
Regardless of like where they're from or what they believe.
Exactly, yeah. And it's like in Prisoner of Azkaban,
Yeah.
when Harry's struggling with the Dursleys,
Mm-hmm.
he's ignored, he's mistreated.
Mm-hmm.
He's basically treated like a total outsider
Yeah.
in his own home.
Yeah.
And a lot of fans, connect that
Yeah.
to their challenges of
Right.
dealing with difficult family dynamics
Totally. It's such a
in real life.
relatable experience.
And it's a powerful example of how
Yeah.
even these fictional struggles can resonate
Totally.
with real life experiences.
Yeah.
It's like the story becomes this mirror
Yeah.
reflecting our own emotions and anxieties,
Right.
allowing us to process them
Totally.
in a safe and relatable context.
Yeah, it's like it's almost therapeutic in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
So what does all this tell us?
Well, it seems like,
Yeah.
all these fan theories, all these headcanons,
Right.
all of this outpouring of creativity,
Yeah.
I think it's vital to keeping the Potter fandom
Yeah.
so alive
Yeah.
and so engaged.
Yes,
It's like
exactly.
it's what gives it that energy.
Yeah. Exactly. They offer a space for this ongoing dialogue, exploration,
Oh, yeah.
and new perspectives.
For sure.
It's a testament to the power of storytelling
Absolutely.
and its ability to shape not just, our entertainment,
Right.
but also our understanding of the world
Yeah.
and ourselves.
That's the beauty of it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's remarkable how, these fans are fueled by this passion
Yeah.
and curiosity, and they become almost like scholars,
Yeah.
Like they're dissecting every little detail,
Right.
every line, every possible interpretation.
Mhm.
They're adding these whole new dimensions to the story
Yeah.
years after the last book was even published.
It's like the story itself becomes a springboard
Yeah.
for just like endless
It
possibilities.
really does.
And what's so fascinating to me is that it's not just about
Yeah.
filling plot holes,
Yeah.
or fixing the story.
Right.
It's about expanding the world
Mm-hmm.
and finding like this personal meaning within it.
Yeah, totally.
Have you ever encountered a fan theory
Uh-huh.
that made you see the story
Yeah.
in like a completely new light?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like there's this one theory about Neville Longbottom
Okay.
that has always just kind of stuck with me,
Yeah.
and it basically proposes that given his bravery and resilience throughout the series,
Mm-hmm.
that Neville could have actually been the chosen one all along,
Okay.
and he could have fulfilled the prophecy
Interesting.
in a different way.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
Because even though, obviously, Harry ultimately defeats Voldemort,
Right.
Neville still plays this crucial role
Oh, absolutely.
in that final battle.
Yeah. For sure.
He destroys the last Horcrux.
Yeah, he's very important.
Right. And so this theory really makes you reconsider the concept of heroism
Mm-hmm.
and how it can manifest in, maybe unexpected ways.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of these fan theories is that they
Mm-hmm.
challenge our assumptions.
Yeah.
They really encourage us to think critically,
Right.
and oftentimes they reveal these hidden depths
Yeah.
within the original narrative.
Yeah, it's like this lens
Yeah.
through which we can see the story
Exactly.
from all these different angles.
Yeah, it's like looking at it through a
Yeah.
kaleidoscope almost.
Right. Uncovering new layers of meaning and
Mm.
complexity.
For sure.
And it's like this collective effort to unlock the story's full potential
Mm-hmm.
with each fan and, adding their own little piece to the puzzle.
Yeah, it's really cool.
What strikes me, though, is how
Yeah.
this level of engagement really reflects our human need to connect
Mm-hmm.
with something larger than ourselves,
Yeah.
even if it's, within a fictional world.
Right. Yeah, that's a really profound point.
Yeah.
It's like the act of theorizing, of immersing ourselves in these fictional worlds and grappling with their complexities.
Yeah.
It speaks to our innate desire, I think,
Right.
to find meaning, to find purpose,
Right.
a sense of belonging.
Mm-hmm.
It's a way of connecting with something
Right.
that resonates deeply within us. It's something that speaks to our shared human experience.
And in a way, this collaborative exploration of these fan theories allows us to continue the conversation long after the author has, put down the pen.
Right.
It's like keeping the magic alive.
Precisely.
Right.
And it transforms the act of reading
Yeah.
from this solitary experience into a communal one.
Yes.
It's a reminder that
Yeah.
even though the books are finite,
Right.
the story itself is boundless.
Yeah.
It's constantly evolving and expanding through this collective imagination
Right.
of the fandom.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
I have.
But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to turn the conversation to you, the listener.
Yeah.
What elements of the Harry Potter series
Oh, good question.
resonate most with you?
Yeah.
And have you ever encountered a fan theory that completely changed your perspective on the story?
It's a fascinating question to consider because ultimately, the enduring appeal of the Harry Potter series
Yeah.
lies in its ability to connect with us
Right.
on a personal level.
It's those moments of recognition, those echoes of our own experiences and emotions
Yeah,
within
thoughts.
the narrative that really make it come alive.
Absolutely.
And what's so wonderful is that each reader
Mm-hmm.
brings their own unique perspective,
Yeah.
their own set of experiences and interpretations to the table.
Exactly.
And it's this diversity of thought and engagement
Yes.
that really enriches the story and
Mm-hmm.
keeps that conversation going.
I love that.
So as we conclude our exploration of fan theories
Yeah.
and the Potter fandom,
Mm-hmm.
I think the key takeaway here is that the magic doesn't end
It doesn't.
when you close the book,
It lives on in
right?
the discussions, the debates,
Yeah.
the endless possibilities that fans continue to explore and create.
It's like a testament to the power of storytelling,
Absolutely.
to ignite our imaginations and connect us in ways that we never thought possible.
And that's a beautiful thing, really.
Yeah.
You know, the magic continues.
Yeah, it really is. And I think that's what makes exploring fandom so fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not just about like consuming a story passively.
Right.
It's about actively engaging with it,
Yeah.
questioning it,
Yeah.
adding your own interpretations into
Right.
the mix.
Like you become part of it.
Right.
You know, it's really cool.
And that brings us to a final thought-provoking point here.
Okay.
You know, we've talked a lot about the what of fan theories, you know, the specific ideas and interpretations.
Right. The content of them.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. But what about the why?
Yeah, that's a good question.
You know, why do we as humans, why do we feel this urge
Yeah.
to theorize, to like dig deeper,
Mhm.
to create these elaborate narratives around the stories that we love?
Yeah, that is the question, isn't it?
It is.
Well, I think maybe it's a way of trying to seek meaning
Okay.
and connection in a world that
Mhm.
oftentimes feels very chaotic and uncertain.
Right, yeah.
You know, and these fictional worlds, they have these,
Yeah.
you know, clearly defined rules
Mm-hmm.
and these relatable characters. They offer this sense of order
Yeah.
and stability.
I get that.
You know, maybe it's a way of,
Yeah.
you know, exercising our own creativity,
Okay.
taking a story that's already captured our hearts
Mm-hmm.
and adding our own spin to it.
Yeah, like we're making it our own in a way.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's a way of connecting with others,
Okay.
you know, who share our passions, building communities
Mm.
around shared interests and interpretations.
I think it's a combination of all those
I
things.
think so too.
You know,
Yeah.
it's about finding that meaning,
Mm-hmm.
expressing ourselves,
Yeah.
and forging those connections with
Yes.
others who, you know,
Who get it.
who get it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think in a way that's the most magical thing about fandom.
Okay.
You know, it transcends the boundaries
Yeah.
of the original text and it becomes something truly unique
Yeah.
and meaningful to each individual.
So, dear listener, as we wrap up our deep dive here
Yeah.
into the world of Harry Potter fan theories,
Mm-hmm.
we really encourage you to embrace that power of your own imagination.
Yes.
Keep theorizing,
Yeah.
keep questioning,
Keep that conversation going.
and keep the conversation going.
For sure.
Because the magic really doesn't have to end at the last page.
It lives on.
It'll live.
In the hearts and minds of the fans.
Yeah.
You know, it's constantly evolving and expanding
Mhm.
with each new interpretation,
Mhm.
each new theory, each new headcanon.
It's a reminder that the stories we love have the power to shape not only our entertainment,
Yeah,
but also our understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
absolutely. That's a beautiful thing.
It is. It really is.
Yeah,
And that is a legacy worth cherishing.
couldn't have said it better myself.
Welcome to another deep dive. This one's going to be less about spells and potions and more about the real-world stuff surrounding Harry Potter. We're looking at, you know, how the controversies around J.K. Rowling are affecting the way people see the series today.
Yeah, it's a really interesting situation, kind of like a potion gone wrong. There are so many strong opinions out there.
Right. And it's hard to ignore. We've got a ton of sources for this one. Articles, Rowling's own essay, and some analyses of how the series is holding up.
Our goal here is to help you understand the nuances, like how the relationship between the creator and her work is changing.
So let's dive in. First up, Vox highlights something that's kind of hard to miss: the shift in public opinion about the series. Rowling's comments on sex and gender have caused some serious waves.
What's really interesting is that it's not just a simple disagreement. Vox talks about how some fans feel really conflicted about supporting the series anymore. It's like they're struggling with their love for Harry Potter versus their own values.
It's a tough spot to be in, and it raises that big question: can we or should we separate art from the artist?
Right. And in this case, it's even trickier because Rowling's still very much in the public eye.
And that leads us to her essay, which is in the sources. It's not just a quick tweet or statement. It's a deep dive into her perspective on these complicated issues.
Yeah, it gives a lot of context for understanding where she's coming from.
I want to be super clear here. We're not here to take sides. We're just presenting the information.
Think of it like we're giving you the ingredients, but it's up to you to brew your own conclusions.
I like that. So moving on, one article argues that despite all this, Harry Potter's impact on culture is still super strong.
It goes even further than that. It actually gives evidence by analyzing how popular the series still is. Conventions, merch, even academic studies.
It makes you wonder, like, what if we magically removed Rowling from the equation? Would Harry Potter still be this huge?
That's a good question to think about, and this leads to a more personal reflection. What did Harry Potter mean to you?
I mean, it's hard to find someone who wasn't touched by the series in some way. But has your relationship with it changed, especially with all the controversy?
That's a key part of this whole deep dive, right? It's not just about the facts, but how they impact us personally.
Time magazine brings up something really fascinating. Rowling still interacts with fans about their theories, even with all the controversies.
It goes beyond just answering questions, though. Time suggests it's a way to keep the fandom alive and buzzing.
Like she's throwing sparks into the conversation, right?
Exactly. It shows how powerful fan engagement can be. Even with controversy, debating theories keeps the work alive.
So in a way, the fans are part of the storytelling.
Absolutely. Their passion and interpretations add new layers to the Harry Potter world. It's a cool example of how a work can go beyond what the author initially intended.
Speaking of going beyond, another analysis focuses on something I found really cool. The series' themes, like prejudice and fighting authoritarianism, are like timeless lessons that still resonate today.
And the analysis actually connects specific scenes and characters to current events. Like, it compares the Ministry of Magic denying Voldemort's return to how some governments downplay real threats.
Oh, wow. I hadn't thought about it like that.
Yeah, it's like Rowling accidentally made a guide for understanding modern problems.
So maybe that's part of why Harry Potter is still so relevant today, even with all this stuff surrounding Rowling.
It could be. The stories tap into something universal, something human, so they speak to people across generations.
And like those themes were mixed with a little veritasium, revealing truths about ourselves and society.
Exactly. And that brings us to the heart of this whole deep dive. How much does J.K. Rowling's personal story impact our view of Harry Potter's story?
It's not an easy question.
And that's why we're here, to help you navigate this whole thing. So, we've been talking about how these big ideas play out within Hogwarts, but what about the wider wizarding world? Like, how do those power dynamics work between purebloods and half-bloods, or wizards and muggles?
Right. It's like we're zooming out to see the whole picture.
Exactly. And we can't ignore this idea of blood purity that kind of hangs over everything.
Yeah, it's almost like a magical caste system.
Right. Those who are considered pure have all the power and influence, and it leads to so much prejudice and discrimination, which, you see it most clearly with Voldemort and his Death Eaters.
It's scary how an ideology based on superiority can cause so much damage.
Oh, absolutely. And it's something that resonates with real-world problems like racism and prejudice.
It makes you think about the relationship between wizards and muggles, too. I mean, most wizards choose to live in secret, but some think they should rule over muggles.
Right, and that belief plays out in different ways. Some wizards just look down on muggles, while others, like Voldemort, actually want to harm them and control them.
It's like those historical power struggles where one group thinks they're better than another.
Exactly, and it makes you question how we treat anyone who's different from us.
And speaking of different, what about the magical creatures? They don't seem to have much power in the wizarding world.
No, they really don't. Creatures like centaurs, giants, goblins, they're often pushed aside and mistreated.
It's like another layer of prejudice, but within the wizarding world itself.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like, centaurs are super intelligent and proud, but wizards are often afraid of them.
And goblins are seen as greedy and untrustworthy, even though they're amazing with metalwork and money.
It's just more prejudice, but this time it's about being a different species.
These themes are pretty heavy. It's like Rowling bakes some serious social commentary into these books.
Yeah, definitely. So let's jump ahead to the last book, Deathly Hallows, because that's where the power struggle between good and evil really explodes.
The final showdown. Harry, Ron, and Hermione are trying to destroy Voldemort's Horcruxes while he's taking over everything.
And the stakes couldn't be higher. The Ministry of Magic falls to Voldemort. Even Hogwarts becomes a war zone. It shows how fast darkness can spread and corrupt things.
It's like watching a whole society crumble under the weight of fear.
Exactly. But even in all this darkness, there's this strong theme of resistance. People at Hogwarts are standing up to Voldemort and his Death Eaters. They're fighting for what they believe in.
They're literally risking their lives to protect Hogwarts, to protect their values.
Yeah, it's powerful. It shows that even when things are really bad, we can't give up hope.
And Harry, he never gives up. He keeps believing in love and goodness, even when he's facing death.
That final battle at Hogwarts is so emotional, so much loss, but also so much courage and self-sacrifice.
It shows that even in a war, even when facing pure evil, there's still love, there's sacrifice, there's hope.
And those are the things that allow Harry and his friends to win. Love, unity, fighting for what's right. Those things turn out to be stronger than Voldemort's magic.
And in the epilogue, we see a world where good won, where things are slowly healing. There's a new generation carrying that torch of hope.
It's a bittersweet ending, It acknowledges all the loss, but it still offers a vision of a better future.
So, taking a step back, the Harry Potter series has received so much praise. The storytelling, the characters, the themes, it's all really resonated with people.
Yeah, people are still discussing good versus evil, the importance of friendship, standing up for what's right.
But we can't ignore the criticism either, especially because of Rowling's personal views.
It's a complicated situation, right? Some fans have stepped away from the series altogether. It's too much for them to handle.
But others have found a way to separate the art from the artist. They still love the stories, even if they disagree with Rowling.
And then some people feel like Rowling's views actually make the series more meaningful to them. They see connections between her beliefs and the themes in the books.
It just shows how complicated this all is. Everyone's bringing their own baggage to the table.
It's like we're all looking into the same pensive, but we're all seeing something different.
That's such a great way to put it. And it shows why we need to be empathetic and respectful when talking about this. We might disagree, but we can at least try to understand each other. So where does this leave us? What's the big takeaway?
Well, I think the main thing is that the relationship between a creator and their creation is never simple. It's always going to be messy. It's going to be shaped by personal things, by what's going on in society, by how people's views change over time.
And with Harry Potter, that relationship is still evolving. It's a conversation between Rowling, the fans, and the whole cultural landscape.
It's up to each person to decide how they want to engage with the series and how much Rowling's personal views affect their enjoyment.
We've looked at the facts, the arguments, the emotional stuff, and the magic that still surrounds Harry Potter.
Now it's your turn. What did Harry Potter mean to you before, and what does it mean to you now?
Did this deep dive change your thinking at all? And what does that tell you about separating art from the artist? Is it possible, or is it just too difficult?
It's a question worth thinking about. And who knows, you might discover some surprising things along the way.
So, to wrap things up, let's move on to fan theories, which Time magazine says Rowling has been really engaged with. It's like she's keeping the conversation going.
Yeah, it's amazing how fan theories can bring new life to something, even after it's finished.
It's like they're detectives, right? Looking for clues and hidden meanings.
Totally. And some of the theories are so creative, like new interpretations of the characters, the events, even the whole story.
Time magazine mentions one where Dumbledore is actually a time traveler. The fans point to how he knows things about the future and how he has a time turner.
It's a fun theory, even though Rowling said it's not true.
Yeah.
But it shows how much people care at the world she created. They're looking for all these hidden depths.
There's another one where Neville Longbottom could have been the chosen one instead of Harry.
Yeah, because the prophecy says either must die at the hand of the other. Right.
And Neville, like Harry, was born at the end of July, so he fits the prophecy too.
It's clever, but, we all know Voldemort was after Harry specifically.
Still, it shows how much people think about the story. They come up with all these different interpretations.
And we can't forget about the whole Harry and Hermione debate.
The Harry-Hermione ship.
Yeah.
So many people think they should have ended up together. They had all those experiences together, and they were so smart together.
It just goes to show how much people connect with these characters. Like, they care so much about their lives that they want different things for them.
It's like they're adding their own chapters to the Harry Potter story.
Exactly. And sometimes those fan stories are really well done. They make you think.
But fan theories aren't always about romance or plot twists. Some fans see the whole Harry Potter series as an allegory for real-world issues.
Right. Some people compare Voldemort's regime to real dictatorships, pointing to the Ministry of Magic trying to control everything and silence anyone who disagrees.
And then there are comparisons between how house elves are treated and real-world slavery and exploitation.
And we talked about blood purity earlier, how some people see it as a commentary on racism and prejudice.
It shows how powerful literature can be. It can reflect what's happening in the real world and make us think about those issues.
And it shows how a fictional story can inspire critical thinking and discussions about social justice and equality.
So why do you think Harry Potter is still so relevant today, even though the books were finished years ago?
Well, one reason is that the themes are timeless. The battle between good and evil, the importance of friendship, standing up for what's right, those things will always be important.
And the series also reminds us of the power of imagination, how important it is to find escape in stories.
Yeah, in a world that can be pretty overwhelming, Harry Potter offers a sense of wonder. Like, there's still magic out there.
It reminds us that hope and happiness are still possible.
And another reason is that the series reflects real world problems, which encourages discussions about prejudice, discrimination, the abuse of power.
It makes the series resonate on a deeper level, right? It makes you think about the world and how you can make a difference.
Exactly. So let's talk about how Harry Potter has affected the real world beyond just the books.
It's inspired so many charities and organizations that focus on things like literacy, education, and social justice.
Like Lumos, which was started by J.K. Rowling herself, it helps children in orphanages and institutions all over the world.
And there are fan-driven groups, like the Harry Potter Alliance. They use the series' message to do social activism and make a positive impact.
It's amazing how much good has come from these stories.
And Harry Potter has actually sparked a renewed interest in things like mythology, folklore, and ancient cultures.
Because Rowling used so much of that stuff in her world building, like Celtic, Norse, Greek mythology, even medieval alchemy and folklore.
And that's led a lot of readers to learn more about those things, which helps them understand history, culture, and storytelling better.
It shows how literature can make you curious and make you want to learn more about the world.
But of course, we have to talk about the controversy around Rowling's views on gender and sex.
Right. Her statements have caused a lot of debate and they've divided the fandom. Some fans have just walked away while others are trying to figure out how to still love the series.
It's a tough issue. How do you separate the art from the artist, especially now when personal beliefs and politics are so mixed up?
It's a question we're all grappling with.
It's a difficult conversation, and it's probably going to continue for a while. But one thing's for sure, Harry Potter has had a huge impact.
Yeah, no doubt. It's sparked imaginations, created passionate fans, and left a permanent mark on culture.
It's a series that people of all ages connect with. It offers escape, it inspires, and it reminds us that even when things are dark, there's always magic to be found.
And despite everything, its legacy will likely continue to enchant and inspire people for generations to come.
We've gone through the facts, the different arguments, the emotions involved, and we've seen how the magic of Harry Potter is still so powerful.
Now it's your turn to think about your own journey with this series. What did it mean to you when you first encountered it, and what does it mean to you now?
And finally, how has this deep dive changed your perspective? What have you learned about the idea of separating art from the artist?
It's a journey worth taking, full of magic, reflection, and maybe even a few surprises along the way.
You know, it's pretty amazing how much the Harry Potter series has achieved, even with all the controversies and back and forth.
Yeah, it really shows you the power of these stories. They've touched so many people, given them a place to escape, inspired them, and created this whole sense of community.
I totally agree. And that takes us back to our big question from the beginning. How do J.K. Rowling's controversies affect how people see Harry Potter now?
Well, that's something each person has to figure out for themselves, right? There's no right or wrong answer.
Some people have had to make the tough choice to walk away from the series completely. It's just too hard for them to enjoy it, knowing what they know about Rowling's views.
And that's totally understandable. But others have found a way to kind of compartmentalize things. They can still love the stories, even though they disagree with the author personally.
And then you have those who feel like Rowling's views actually give them a deeper understanding of the books, like they seek connections between her beliefs and the themes.
It's a complicated situation, no doubt. There's so much to consider, and everyone's bringing their own experiences and opinions to the table.
We're all looking at the same pensive, but we're seeing different memories and interpretations.
I love that. And it reminds us that we need to be empathetic and respectful, even when we disagree. We can at least try to understand where the other person is coming from.
Absolutely. So, where do we go from here? What's the main takeaway?
I think the big takeaway is that the connection between a creator and their work is rarely straightforward. There are so many factors at play: personal experiences, societal influences, how views change over time. It's never black and white.
And for Harry Potter, that connection is still evolving. The conversation continues between Rowling, the fans, and the wider culture.
It's up to each person to figure out how they want to engage with the series and how much Rowling's personal views matter to them.
We've covered a lot of ground here. The facts, the different arguments, the emotional weight of it all, and the magic that still surrounds Harry Potter.
And now it's your turn. We challenge you to reflect on your own relationship with this series. Think about what it meant to you in the past and what it means to you today.
Has this deep dive changed your perspective in any way? And what does your answer tell you about the whole idea of separating art from the artist?
It's a journey worth taking. You might be surprised by what you discover about the series, about yourself, and about the complexities of the world we live in.
And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder those questions. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the magic alive.